Daniel F. checks in with an easy one. No, really, Dave, it's an easy one. It ain't going to be an easy one, is it? Well, it's define easy. Hello, Dave. The early printings of the first couple of Cerebus phone books don't have any text printed on the spine. Later printings have the volume number and volume name printed. What was the reason for that? Was it cheaper to print without text? Thanks, Daniel F. And question for Matt, how was your vacation? Is that one of those, thanks to Hurricane Helene? Apart from that, how was the play, Mrs. Lincoln?
We booked this trip knowing that there's a possibility of hurricanes. And I'm going, we booked it like a year ago, and I'm going, there's going to be the biggest hurricane that's ever hit land just because I'm going down there. There's a certain amount of standing on the beach going, come at me, and when the camera spins 180, there's this wall of water below a wall of cloud, and it was nice and sunny the entire time wherever we were. Everything was nice, and until we got back to Florida, and we were on the cruise ship, and cruise ships know what's going on. Like, hey, there's a hurricane over there, just don't go over there.
Right.
So we had our last day on the boat was at sea. So basically, they have to go from the Bahamas to Florida, which isn't that long of a trip. But they go slow and they go out into the Atlantic so that it's you're spending a day out on the boat. And we got into port, and the hurricane had hit overnight on the other side of the state. So we woke up, looked out, and it's wet, but power was on. It didn't look like there was a lot of damage because it was the east side of Florida, and the west side's what got hit. So it's one of those. Would I do this again? Probably. Is it going to go as smoothly? Probably not. You're probably asking for trouble, at least at some level of metaphysics there, but you're also, you don't want to be a complete paranoid. You got to find a Goldilocks spot on that spectrum. The only time that we were quote unquote affected by the hurricane was at the airport waiting for our flight to come home. We were flying into Chicago from Florida. The plane that we were going to fly on was coming to Florida from Baltimore, and between Baltimore and us was the remnants of the hurricane.
Ah.
And Paula's looking at her app going, well, they're delaying the flight, but I don't understand why. I'm like, because there's a hurricane between us. That's why.
Yes.
It's not over water. It's not technically a hurricane, but it's this massive storm system that you don't want to fly through.
And we definitely want to say, this is you and Paul and the kids definitely had a tangential experience, and we want to make sure that everybody understands this was a serious hurricane, particularly in North Carolina. And it's one of those things where it's a one-day story until you find out North Carolina is still trying to get basic glued back together accomplished. So all of our best wishes and prayers to the people of North Carolina, South Carolina, parts of Georgia, where this wasn't a minor or tangential thing. It was this is the wrath of God. So I speaking of the wrath of God, I have a prayer time coming up in a couple of minutes. So I will get back to the question on putting the names on the spines of the trade paperbacks when we pick this up on the other side.
Okay. I will be
Talk
there.
to you then. Bye-bye.
Bye. Hello again, Dave.
Hello again, Matt. Okay, picking up where we left off with the Daniel F. asking about the early printings of the first couple of Cerebus phone books. Don't have any text printed on the spine. What was the reason for that? That happened when I got a prototype of High Society done by Printy Print and Litho, and it didn't have anything printed on it. It was just, okay, let's figure out what the cover stock is going to be and what the paper interiors are going to be and what that looks like. And it's like, okay, now I know what that looks like. What's the cover going to be? And I knew that like the picture I had in my mind was pretty much exactly the way the High Society cover looks. Not nearly that elaborate. Gerhard really went to town on it, but I did say, just make it the most palatial hotel you can possibly imagine. Just gaudiness stacked on top of gaudiness, stacked on top of gaudiness, and in a fan shape where it rises to a peak in the middle and then sort of scales down in perspective on the front and back covers. And that was the extent of my instruction on that. Which then presented the problem once the cover was done and we were going ahead with packaging the book. Let's take all of these negatives from 26 to 50 and, put them into one giant book, one 500-page book. As the logistics were getting solved, then it was, okay, it's a book. You're supposed to put the name of the book on the spine. And that became a conflict for me between, well, okay, that's what you do. That's standard operating procedure with any book. And then it was, but it's this amazing Gerhard drawing of the Regency Hotel. Why would I cover up the central portion of that illustration with the title of the book? If I have to prioritize, it would be, yes, it's far more important that people get to see Gerhard's artwork exactly as Gerhard executed it. And yes, there's no doubt that human civilization agrees all books have to have their names on the spine. And it's like, well, speaking as a comic book artist and speaking as a comic book artist employing the best background artist in the business, I think the one supersedes the other. So consequently, and the other fact was, okay, I'm not going to be selling this through the distributors or to the stores because the orders just aren't large enough for what I think this can sell. And why should I not sell this directly to the fans? And if I'm selling it directly to the fans, it doesn't have the impetus to say, okay, you've got to have the name on the spine. If you're selling to a bookstore, then you have to have the name on the spine because that's how they're going to sell it to their customers. But if I'm selling it to my customers based on the fact that it's the collected High Society Cerebus 26 to 50, I don't think they would be prioritizing having the name on the spine. And I'm the absolute dictator here. If I decide this is the preferable way to do the High Society cover, this is the preferable way. Then by the time that we were going to sell to the stores, then it became a question of, well, okay, you've done this book, and you've conceded that a book should have the name of the book on the front and the name of the creators underneath it as a credit, and that's the limit of what you think need to be on a book. You can do that for a little while, and now when you're going to be selling these same books into comic book stores, where full-face display is going to be a lot more unlikely than spine-out display, then, okay, that shifts the balance of the decision-making. So that's where the decision-making went from there. Now we're going to put the names on the spines, and now we've got to decide, okay, what typeface are we going to use? Because by that time it was like the Cerebus Trade paperback and High Society and Church and State One. What's going to work with all three covers? And it's like, well, nothing. Actually, you would have a different spine on Church and State One and on Cerebus than you would on High Society. So there was a compromise there, because High Society, the lettering still gets lost. It's like it's impossible to do any kind of lettering that is going to stand out readably on a cover that has as detailed an illustration as Gerhardt did. So didn't really work on High Society. It did work on Cerebus. Didn't really work on Church and State One, but the decision has to be made. And then it was a matter of going, okay, this is going to be a printy print litho thing. I'm not going to hand letter titles onto the books, because I certainly wasn't going to do that with High Society. So this will be something that just gets added to the book at the pre-press stage at printy print litho. And as much as possible, Kim, you have to set it up so that when these books are put on a bookshelf, that the lettering is the same size, so that it looks like a series of books. This is the Cerebus graphic novel broken down into individual graphic novels, and that's what you're going to be trying to do. I think there was some tweaking that went on between printings, where it's like, no, Church and State is the name on the spine is a little bit too big, or High Society is a little bit too small. We have to find whatever we can do in terms of a Goldilocks spot and get them all to match up, so that at the end of the day, when all of this is done, we will have 16 volumes with the names on the spines looking like they fit in one series of books. That's as thorough an explanation as I can do on that one.
Now, it was the first 5 that were, quote, spineless for the first couple printings, right? I thought it went up to Jocka's story.
Yeah. I mean, that was again, there was different decision making going into it of what's more important, an unobstructed illustration, to whatever extent that is possible, against having the name on the spine. And once I make a decision, I tend to try to stick with the decision, and that was the decision that I had made. And I think it was, I'm not sure when it was that we started offering the books to the direct market, but that factored into decision making. The decision might have been made before that, where it's just No, these are very thick books, and you really need to have the name on the spine, whatever friction that causes inside of you as an artist, and saying, if you can avoid covering up art with text, you want to avoid covering up art with text. You only want to have text where you absolutely have to have text. And stuck with that until it was, it is going to be problematic for Cerebus fans if I keep doing this, and they do end up with, I don't think I even had the decision made that there was going to be 16 volumes. But, whatever that ends up being, all 6,000 pages fit in this number of books. It's going to be, as soon as you pull one of them off the shelf to check, let's say, Jaka's story, and you go, well, I know that illustration is part of the Jaka story cover. There's going to be other covers where you go, I can't tell from that cover which one that is, and I don't want to be having to pull, 3 or 4 books off of the shelf to go, oh, okay, this is what I was looking for. I was looking for Minds. Why can't it just say Minds on the spine?
I remember I didn't know about the spineless covers, and then we were in Salt Lake City at the eBooks the Server show, and Mimi Cruz invited us back to her house, and I was looking at the bookshelves. I'm like, wait a minute, what's going on here? And they were looking at me like, everybody, including you and Garrett, were looking at me like I had, an ant head, because they're like, how do you not know about this? Like, I'm a later fan.
That's right. I came in late on the show. It was. When did you come in? You came in at what year?
90s. I started buying the book monthly in 97.
Okay. So your trade paperback experience was after that. And yes, by that time it was SOP that all of the books had names on the spine. This sounds like a job for Nate Oberstein, our trade paperback collector, who's got all of the printings. Where was the decision made, and what year? Because he would have them. I'm pretty sure he's got them filed away in order, and would be able to say, okay, this was the year that the decision was made, and this was the first trade paperback that came out that had the name on the spine, and then all of these others followed like dominoes.
I actually have pictures of his collection, now that I think about it.
Yeah, it might have to correlate between looking at the collection and looking at the indicia on the inside, but it'll be interesting. But that's as far as we can go on the secret origin of the names on the spine, Daniel F. We'll get back to you on the rest of it.